24 years, that is how long American women have been wandering in the figure skating wilderness, waiting for a savior who didn't just have the jumps but the soul to match. Since Sarah Hughes in 2002, the top of that Olympic podium has been a gated community, and the U.S. was definitely not on the guest list. But tonight in Milan at the 2026 Winter Games, the gates didn't just open, they were kicked down by a 20-year-old with bleached hair and a UCLA enrollment form in her back pocket. Welcome back to Pro Sports Coverage. If you thought the drama in figure skating was limited to glitter and sequins, you haven't been paying attention to the absolute carnage of the women's free skate. The stakes tonight were higher than a quadlutz. We came into this evening with the Japanese powerhouses Ami Nakai and the legendary Kaori Sakamoto sitting comfortably in the top two spots after the short program for the American trio, self-dubbed the Blade Angels. It looked less like a flight and more like a crash landing earlier in the week. Amber Glenn was buried in 13th, Isabeau Levito was stuck in 8th, and Alysa Liu, she was in 3rd, but the gap felt like a canyon. Everyone was asking the same question: can artistry actually survive in a sport that has become a clinical race for technical points? Stick around, because we're breaking down why this night changed the sport forever and why the most important moment didn't even happen during a jump. Before we get into the ice-cold details, do me a favor. If you love the high-stakes pressure of Olympic storytelling, subscribe to Pro Sports Coverage. We live for these moments where legacy is decided by a literal millimeter of steel on ice. Give this video a like and share it with that one friend who still thinks figure skating is just dancing. Trust me, after tonight, they'll change their mind. Let's talk about the first drop of the night, the redemption of Amber Glenn. Figure skating is a brutal psychologist. You spend 4 years training for a 3-minute short program, and if you botch one jump, like Amber did, you're basically a ghost in the standings. She went into the free skate sitting in 13th place. For most, that's a just finish and go home scenario, but Amber Glenn isn't most people. She stepped onto the ice to I Will Find You and the return, and for 4 minutes, she wasn't just skating, she was exercising demons. She landed her high-scoring triple axel with the kind of authority that makes you wonder how she ever fell in the first place. Her technical element score was a massive 78.87, and when her total of 214.53 flashed on the screen, she rocketed into first place. For a while, it looked like the ultimate comeback story. She went from 13th to the top of the leaderboard, and the arena was holding its breath. But here is the pivot, the first drop. Despite that heroic climb, despite the tears and the redemption, the math of the short program disaster was too heavy. Amber wouldn't get her individual medal. She proved she was a world-class athlete, but the podium remained just out of reach. It's a bitter pill to swallow, being the best in the room for 4 minutes, but being haunted by a mistake from 2 days ago. It's like landing your dream job interview, but realizing you forgot to attach your resume to the email. We all face that, don't we? That crushing weight of a past mistake that feels like it's capping our ceiling. We work twice as hard to make up for it, just like Amber did, only to realize some things can't be undone. But as she stood there in the kiss and cry, crying not for a loss, but for the fact that she finally showed the world who she was, you realize that maybe the medal isn't the point. Speaking of points, we have to talk about the quad girl, Adelia Petrosian. She is the technical titan of this era, the only woman in the field crazy enough or skilled enough to attempt a quad. She entered the free skate in 5th place, knowing she had to bring out the big guns to bridge the gap. She's like that person we all know who tries to solve every problem with brute force and pure logic. She stepped out in a striking red dress, looking like she was ready for a fight. And then, the disaster. She went for the quad toe loop right out of the gate, and physics won. She fell. The arena went silent. You could see the frustration, the clinical precision of her training being shattered by a single miscalculation. She finished 6th overall with a 214.53, tied with Amber Glenn, but losing the tiebreaker. It was a stark reminder that in the Olympics, ambition is a double-edged sword. If you fly too close to the sun on a quad, the ice will meet you halfway. But while we're on the subject of ambition, I have an open loop for you. Why did Alysa Liu really come back? Remember, this is a girl who won nationals at 13, went to the Olympics at 16, and then just quit. She cited burnout. She went to UCLA. She lived the life of a normal teenager. Most skaters who leave the sport at 16 stay gone. The ice is too cold and the judges are too mean to come back just for fun. So why was she standing there in Milan with bleached hair and a smile that looked like she was about to go to a disco instead of a high-pressure final? Keep that in the back of your head because the answer is what decided the gold medal. Now, let's look at the middle flight skaters who set the tone. Julia Sauter from Romania and Olga Mikutina from Austria were the early stories of the night. Julia was sitting in 16th and skated with such raw emotion that she was literally crying before her music even ended. She jumped from 16th to 5th momentarily with a 190.93. Then came Olga, skating to Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. I mean, if you're going to skate for your life, Metallica is a choice I can respect. She smashed her personal best by 11 points, proving that the early groups weren't just there to fill time. They were there to remind the leaders that nobody's spot was safe. But the real tension started when the South Koreans took the ice. Shinjia and Lee Hye-in were clinical. Shinjia, the young phenom, delivered a performance to Liszt's Liebestrom that was so poetic it felt like a dream. She didn't just land jumps, she whispered them. When she posted a 206.28, it was the first time the 200-point barrier was truly shattered in the evening. Then Lee Hye-in followed it up with a 210.56, putting two Koreans in the top 5. At this point, the Americans were sweating, the Japanese were preparing, and Adelia Petrosian was still trying to recover from her fall. This is the mid-video moment where I need you to engage. Look, these athletes are under more pressure than a submarine at the bottom of the Atlantic. We're talking about years of sacrifice for a 4-minute window. If you appreciate the grind, hit that share button. Send this to someone who needs a reminder that even if you fall like Adelia or Amber, the way you finish is what people remember. All right, let's get to the main event. Alysa Liu, the girl who wasn't supposed to be here. She chose Donna Summer's MacArthur Park Suite, a disco medley that on paper sounds like a terrible idea for an Olympic final. Figure skating usually demands prestige music, Swan Lake, Carmen, the usual suspects, but Alysa Liu didn't care about prestige, she cared about the stage. She opened with a triple flip, followed by a triple Lutz, triple toe loop combination that was so clean, it looked like it was rendered in a video game, but it wasn't just the technical stuff, it was the joy. By the time the disco beat kicked in, the entire arena was clapping along. She wasn't just competing, she was hosting a party. When she finished her final spin, she didn't look at the judges. She turned to the camera and shouted, "That's what I'm talking about!" It was raw, it was unscripted, it was the antithesis of the clinical skating we've seen for years. The scores came in 150.24 for the free skate, a total of 226.79. She took the lead, and with only the two Japanese skaters left, she was guaranteed a medal. But here is the second drop, the emotional twist. Most athletes in that position would be pacing, praying for their competitors to fall. Not Alysa. She sat in the leader's chair and cheered for them. She told reporters later, "I don't need this medal. What I needed was the stage, and I got that." Think about that for a second. In a world where we are told that winning is the only metric of success, here is a 20-year-old who already walked away once, telling us that the performance itself was the victory. The gold medal was just a bonus. It's a profound shift in perspective. How many of us are so focused on the medal in our own lives, the promotion, the grade, the followers, that we forget to enjoy the stage we're standing on? But the drama wasn't over. Japan's Kaori Sakamoto and Ami Nakai still had to skate. Kaori is a legend, a 3-time world champion. She has speed that makes other skaters look like they're standing still. She delivered a vintage, powerful performance, but she had a few minor technical flickers, those tiny things the technical panel loves to pounce on. She earned a total of 226.79. Wait for it. She tied Alisa Liu's total, but because Alysa had the higher free skate score, Alysa stayed in first. The margin was the width of a hair. Finally, Ami Nakai, the leader after the short program. The pressure on a 17-year-old in that position is inhuman. You are the last skater of the night. You are standing between an American comeback and a Japanese sweep, and you could see it in her eyes. The nervous grip, as the commentators called it. She fought for every landing, but the fluidity wasn't there. She fell once. She stumbled. The quad girl, Adelia, had fallen, and now the short program leader was faltering too. Ami Nakai finished with a 216.19. Wait for it! She tied Alysa Liu's total, but because Alysa had the higher free skate score, Alysa stayed in first. The margin was the width of a hair. Finally, Ami Nakai, the leader after the short program. The pressure on a 17-year-old in that position is inhuman. You are the last skater of the night. You are standing between an American comeback and a Japanese sweep, and you could see it in her eyes. The nervous grip, as the commentators called it. She fought for every landing, but the fluidity wasn't there. She fell once, she stumbled, the quad girl, Adelia, had fallen, and now the short program leader was faltering too. Ami Nakai finished with a 216.19. It was enough for bronze, but the gold was gone. The 24-year drought was over. Alysa Liu, the girl who retired because she was tired of the pressure, won the gold medal by being the only person in the building who refused to let the pressure define her. Kaori Sakamoto took the silver and Ami Nakai took the bronze. As we wrap this up, I want you to look at that podium. You see 3 women who have spent their entire lives being told that their value is a number on a scoreboard. But tonight, Alisa Liu proved that the highest score comes when you stop skating for the judges and start skating for yourself. Her journey from a 13-year-old prodigy to a 16-year-old burnout to a UCLA student and finally to an Olympic champion is the ultimate lesson in autonomy. She did it her way, her music, her coaches, her bleached hair, her joy. This is pro sports coverage, and we don't just cover the scores, we cover the soul of the game. If this story moved you, if you felt that pressure or that relief, leave a comment below. Tell me about a time you walked away from something only to realize you had to come back to it on your own terms. Your stories are what make this community great. The 2026 Winter Olympics gave us a lot of moments, but Alisa Liu turning to the camera and claiming her own greatness is the one we'll be talking about in another 24 years, because in the end, the ice doesn't care about your resume, it only cares about your heart. Don't just watch the game, understand the pressure. We'll see you in the next one.